Quebec.
Oh, okay. You don't have to check on a name for me. I'm just curious. It looked vaguely familiar, but I knew I hadn't seen it in real life. But it's a nice background, a lot
Oh,
of
it's
depth
nice.
to it, leading lines.
The area where it was gorgeous too. There was a river in the back and mountains. It was just really gorgeous.
I think I about have it.
Okay, well, let me know when you're ready.
Yeah, we are live. Get to that so I know it's kind of,
He's alive.
yeah, I see me, so that's good. All right.
Okay.
Okay, Clint, you can. We just replace the spotlight and you can start.
All right. Well, welcome everyone to the Menomonee Falls Camera Club. Before we forget, I guess there's a few members that haven't paid their $20 dues. So by chance, Jeff, do we have anything on PSA, WACO, or digital form coming up?
Um, well, the only thing would be digital forum is we got Robert Canis talking about Norway, photography in Norway.
Okay.
He's an English photographer, so it should be a little different and interesting to hear his ideas and what he has shot over in that area. Talking about Wacko a little bit, our club did very well in the Wacko competition. Quite a few second and third places. I think even maybe some firsts. I don't have the list in front of me. We'll get that out to Ellen for the newsletter for December. The winners are, the video is up on the website along with if you didn't see the competition is on the website at the WACO website. So you're free to watch that. And the photos should be up on the website in a few more days if everything goes right. PSA, I forget who they have coming, is next Sunday from 10 to about 3. Rick Cloran, I believe it is, talking about judging photo stuff, I believe. So you have to be a member of PSA chapter to be able to attend. And to be a member of chapter, you have to be a member of PSA itself, which is a very good group to belong to. They've got a lot of good education, a lot of good competitions if you're into competitions. So that's about all I've got.
Okay. Well, next month will be December. Next month will be actually in person. This time we're going to be at the Holy Cross Lutheran Church. It's just basically south of where we normally go for the Menomonee Falls Rec Department. I can later this week, I'll send everyone a map on how to get there. So we'll be there. We'll be having pizza, but before the pizza, we're going to be judging the print circuit images. And also we will be doing our group photo shoot too after the pizza. And then everyone is welcome if you want, bring some snacks and stuff like that, treats. I'll bring the soda, napkins, and plates. Christmas parties. There's a bunch of Christmas parties, a bunch of Christmas parades coming up. This Saturday, November 11th, will be Germantown and also one in Hartford. Then the following week is November 26th, Sunday in Menomonee Falls, and there's also another Christmas parade in West Bend. Both are in the newsletter on times and dates and addresses. Patty, do you know anything about the West Bend parade? I know it sounded like one place wanted to get some pictures again this year. If Patty's here.
Yeah, I think she is. Thought she was.
Oh, yeah, I think I.
There we go.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't have a lot of information right now other than it starts at 5 p.m. They do send Menomonee Falls Camera Club a check as a, just to show their gratitude that, someone was there to take pictures. They want to have more, we only had one person last year. And they were really pleased with the photos that Linnea took. They're hoping that they can get more photographers so that there'll be people that can take pictures of the parade participants as well as pictures of the people watching the parade. And so they would like to get a nice variety.
Okay, well, thank you, Patty.
Yeah, and I'll try to get more information. It's trying to nail Mike down to get information on anything is challenging at best. I'm still waiting to get work-related answers for stuff. It's been taking like forever. So he's got a lot on his plate right now. But I'll see if I can get more information. The good news is that the downtown is all the construction is done. And they're actually going to have pavement and everything and not have to have an alternate parade route or anything. They can, so it should be a lot more scenic. They're already putting up the decorations. They look really nice. So it should be a fun time.
Well, thank you for the update on that.
Okay.
I know we haven't, we've been trying to do the Racine Observatory to check out the stars. So far, that hasn't been working out too well with clouds and storms and that. We're going to try to reschedule. I have to get to talking to Brian on what would be the best, dates. I know we usually did it at the end of the month. Well, the end of the month would be basically Thanksgiving. So I don't know if we're going to wait for springtime or summertime. So I'll keep everyone posted. Last thing, go ahead.
Yeah, I tried picking this time of year just because you had the moon, Saturn, and Jupiter all high in the sky, which would be great. But yeah, as we get later in the year, it gets colder because for observing, inside temperature has to equal outside temperature at the observatory. So it could get pretty brisk out there pretty quick. So
Yes. Well, thank you very much for trying to make this work, Brian. I really do appreciate that. So we'll stay in touch and figure out what a really good game plan is.
sure.
Next would be, we have an all-member showcase in 2024. It will be Doors and Gates. This showcase will be shown in June. So get your cameras out, get some good pictures of some doors and gates. That should be pretty interesting. We also have show and tell tonight. So Linnea and Jane, I don't know whoever would like to go first. If you ladies are ready to go, you're more than welcome to show your pictures.
Jane, I can start if you're game.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm Linnea, and I'm a Canon shooter. Probably got back into it about, I would say, 9-10 years ago. And so what I just figured I would do is just show you what I like to shoot. But also, too, as I was looking at some of these photos, the ones I really want to show, I can't find. So just know that anything you see, my other ones are just so much better. So this is just a shot of Lakefront, Lake Michigan. I absolutely love traveling with my camera. My husband is wonderful in that he hates traveling, so I get to do it, and my companion is my camera. So Laughlin is a place that I like going to a lot. We used to have family there. So one of my favorite things is just walking around and seeing what's there. This bottom right is actually a golf course, and it was just beautiful in the mountains. Almost made me want to start golfing, but I didn't. This here is the Gordon Dam, the river walk, a long walk, or Laughlin. It's just, it's beautiful in the winter. Last year, I had the opportunity to go to Alaska, so I took a cruise by myself, which was excellent. The other bed had my tripod and the cameras. It was just really cool to kind of walk around. You don't have to worry about, what would I say? Just when you want to go shoot, you just go shoot. So this is, I love wildlife, scenery, obviously. We saw all the glaciers. It was absolutely beautiful. This is before we went out for the crabbing. It was really cool. The bottom left-hand side, you will see people coming from the top of this mountain coming down on the zip lines. And these are one of the times where I'm really glad I have a camera, because I don't have to go on these things. I don't want to risk losing it or damaging it. So I'm not adventurous except for just carrying a camera. Atikokan is where I used to spend in Canada. It's probably about 13 hours straight north of here. I used to spend a lot of my summers up there probably about 20 years ago, and it's gorgeous. So you have the beautiful lakes. This is the plane that everybody would take as they go to the different, area lakes. The lakes are huge. We probably could travel on this lake in, a regular speedboat for about 45 minutes before you even get to the other end. We went fishing down by a dam, and seriously, I was taking a lot of pictures of all the fish that we caught, but it just got so boring because all we would do is throw in the line and then you'd catch a fish. We had to swear to secrecy though when we came back around the lake, just so nobody knew where our spot was. Also too, though, it's beautiful area, but the amount of socializing, sitting on the beach, and just fun and water sports is just cool. It's just such a beautiful, beautiful place. Oops, back. I've shared some of this before. So I have a connection with the Holy Temple, or the Hindu Temple of Wisconsin, which is right on 164. And what's interesting is that how I received my connection is from our band's former sound guy, Fritz Steitzer, as German as the day is long. So he knew the woman who's basically the event coordinator for the Hindu Temple. And I started volunteering, and now I get, a small nominal fee. And the beauty that's in this temple is just amazing. So the pictures here, Holi is one of their festivals, and there's some more pictures on the next page, which is the throwing of colors. And I'll explain that when I get there. But this Anaparasna, and I was going to check, hopefully I spelt it right, is when a child is about a year old. It is their first official feeding, and all the people of rice, of cereal. So it is the first time that they eat rice in public, at all, but the important family members are the ones that feed it. This event that I attended, oh my goodness, it was bigger than most weddings that I've seen. It was just incredible. I did have the wrong camera lens, but oh well. This was part of the Anaparasna, but this young woman here was dancing during the Holi Festival. So the throwing of colors, and I didn't put in as many as I thought. So the young woman in the top right, you can see she's covered in powder. And what this Holi Festival is, it's in the spring of the year. It is open to the public, and it's incredible to see. You'll see all the colors on the ground. So it is a friendship celebration where if your neighbor, supposedly, my understanding is when your neighbor bothered you, whatever, you throw colors on people. And this is, by the end of the afternoon, you're all friends again. It is a beautiful event. Some of the photos that I have from it are really incredible. But this young woman, I just loved her, I don't know, the way she walked, her confidence there. The little girl during the Holy Festival was absolutely beautiful. And then the dancers were incredible. So out of my world. I got to travel to Mazatlan, which was really neat. I love old buildings. I love like the one on the bottom left. I actually was going to do abandoned photos, but since Clint already picked that for our later President's Challenge, I did not do that this time, but I just love the animals or the reptiles or the geckos, whatever. I went to Costa Rica about 2 years ago. In this first picture that's underwater, this was the coolest thing to me because this underwater photo is in about 6 inches of water. So I bought one of those instant shoots. I think I paid $110 and it was a little chilly out. I didn't want to go swimming. So I stuck my hand under the water in 6 inches. And this was the photo that I got. I tell everybody else I was, diving, but you guys all tell the truth. The upper right, this was where we stayed was an infinity pool. It was absolutely beautiful. It was gorgeous, but we were so high up on the mountain, and I don't know if that's the correct term. I would never do it again. There was no such thing as walking into town or checking out, going for a walk, unless you went straight down for 2 hours and then came back up, but it was beautiful. The bottom right picture I wanted to include, and not that it's photographically beautiful, but that is truly the traffic driving in Costa Rica. There are no street signs. There are no traffic laws. There are no stop signs. People just come and go, and you jut in and you jut out. And it's one place where I never have any desire to drive, but I was in the back seat. That was fine. For me, shooting, I never, ever want to shoot a wedding. I have no desire to. To me, the wedding is probably the most important day of a person's life. So I don't want to do it. So my first wedding that I shot was because this young woman was a good friend of my daughter's. And she's like, Linnea, we just want your personality. We know you don't shoot weddings. Can you do it? Oh my gosh, was it stressful. So it was up at Peninsula State Park. As I'm taking their photo, we are then going to do photos in a beautiful trail. They're very outdoorsy. They're hikers. And I had my tripod because I'm going to do some low light while they're standing still. Well, my, I'm sorry, I don't know the right term. What you screw into your camera to attach to your tripod fell off in the sand somewhere. So all of my photos in the woods were handheld. And as you can see, I'm not sharing any of them. But it was fun. It was fun. And I was really glad when that one was done. It's okay, I did it. And they have pictures, they have memories. Then the second wedding I did was the very next weekend. This female or woman, I'm sorry, she's one of my lead singers in the band. So it's up at the Stopkirk Church, which is in Washington Island in Door County. Absolutely beautiful. During the ceremony, you can't use flash. And if you can imagine this whole church, again, beautiful, but it's all honeywood color. Everything, I adjusted for the lighting, but everything is just orange and there's big beams. I'm sure a real photographer would do fine. The photos turned out okay, but again, I'm not a wedding photographer. This bottom picture of all of them, up until that day, I had no idea how many people were in her family. And then it's okay, everybody, let's take a family photo. And yeah, I think one or two of the family photos, I had to cut heads off to put them on just because eyes were closed. I will forever in a group take at least 3 or 4 pictures just to make sure I can have heads to move around. So that was, okay. And then I'm done. But then I had to do a third wedding. And this one is at the Zivco's or the Chandelier Ballroom in Hartford. Again, beautiful wood, no flash in there. I have my Canon R6 now, so I'm trying to do really low light. Outside was really pretty. We took quite a few pictures there. But the one on the right, and if you know this gentleman, please don't say anything. But the pastor who married them, I probably have, oh my goodness, 20 shots of them kissing or saying their vows and just really happy. And his head is in every single one of them. He never moves. So he's in different variations of this loving couple. And I just wish if I would have thought about it, I would have moved him. But, not during that time. I would have said something before. So then my fourth and final wedding was just in September. I absolutely love shooting kids. So as I look at the wedding photos that I do, the kids are the ones that I like the best. We did very well, but it was an all-day event. The woman is actually a friend of mine. The gentleman is a musician friend of ours. And so I went in at the hotel at 11 o'clock in the morning as the ladies got dressed and came out about 10:30 at night. And yeah, I'm not a wedding photographer. So that's it for the weddings. Animals, I absolutely love animals. I'm a zoology major, except for organic chemistry. So that's what did my major in, and then I switched to graphic arts, which I'm an HR manager, so go figure. But anytime that I get a chance, this was this frog photo shoot on my driveway, absolutely, I'll stop whatever I'm doing to get my camera when I see an animal. These baby fox used to live by us. I can't find their den anymore, for the new babies, but every year I look for them. They're so beautiful. Nonprofits. Oh, I was going to put some more in there, but I didn't. Roots and Branches is where I started shooting outside of my own personal space. And Roots and Branches is a nonprofit for West Bend. And it used to be like West Bend's Beautification Center. This here is King's Heart, and it's they've renovated their barn for weddings. It's absolutely stunning. It's gorgeous. And this was the last one that I shot. I also did the Mayor's Beautification Awards, but truly it's traveling around with the mayor and then taking pictures of the mayor, the husband and wife, or the family and their house. And, it was fine, but really kind of boring. So I haven't done that for a while. This year I got into the MS Society, and only because somebody asked me, a friend of mine, actually from Solo, where a band has played, the young daughter was an interning, and I cannot tell you how rewarding this has been for me. So I did MS walks for Kenosha, Shorewood, Madison, and there was one other one, and then I did the MS bike, which was a 2-day bike-a-thon in Madison. And that was really cool. Great respect for the people both suffering with MS and the ones who were riding in it. And then our band. So our band is what I normally shoot. I shoot from the band itself to people and the crowds. That's not the crowd for my band. I wish it were. That's just at State Fair. But it is, I'll be shooting low light, like on the left-hand side, because the stage is very bright. So they're, how would I say, highlighted well enough. But then all of a sudden I'll turn around, and then there's people, because I always shoot the crowd, saying, hey, take our picture. So now you're now you're quickly grabbing your flash. So yeah, it's what I try to do. And then what's also cool for me, because I do all the advertising for a band on Facebook and the social media, but all my pictures, like I said, this is a black and white of one of our stages. This was at the State Fair when we play at Pistol Pete's. So all the pictures I use then in my advertising media, which is it's kind of cool because we're different than a lot of bands that just have the same, band. At least I think so. So, oh, and I did have one more, but what I did have on the other slide, and just to promote it, I had a couple pictures that I was going to put in for the MS Society. I can stop sharing, or not, on the nonprofits. That was about the parade in West Bend. There is absolutely nothing that we need to do other than show up. So I had quite a few pictures I love the little kids that were there. Thankfully, I didn't have them to show you guys, but just join me. I'm going to be there. I know Patty's going to be there, and it's just so much fun. So yeah, so thank you. That's me and what I like to do.
Oh, that was great.
Very nice, very nice. I don't know that I can top that.
I just talk a lot, Jane.
Well, no way would I do a wedding. No way. No way.
I got suckered into it. That's the only thing I can say. Yeah, not have, yeah. They all have pictures, whatever. They'll have the memories. That's all. That's good.
Well, you were brave. You were brave. All right.
Yeah, it is one of the toughest things to shoot.
And that's if you know what you're doing.
Well, mine is certainly a little bit more generic here. My husband, the dog, and myself, we've been going out and hiking some of the Ozaki, Washington land trust sites. They have a pretty good website if you're interested. I better shut my door here. The website will list all of the preserve with grooming hiking trails. It will have a little trail map, and it will also have a Google map so you can figure out how to get there. Sometimes it's a little confusing. They are marked when you get there, but you do have to kind of look for their markings. So this first one is Brat Woods. It's in Grafton. It runs along the Milwaukee River, the bike trail, and a side residential road. And it's a hardwood area. And it's very pretty. It's a loop trail, and it's maybe about 3/4 of a mile around the loop. So it's not too exhausting. It's pretty well flat terrain, so it's easy walking. I had to put the little bit of mist in here. There was no mist that day. And this one is the Cedarburg Environmental Studies area, which is only about a mile from my house, if even that. And it was, to me, the least interesting of them all. There are a couple of ponds there. It's kind of a pretty rugged, unkept trail that goes around the ponds. And this opening with this shot was about 2 feet, and that was the only place where you could actually have a clear view of the pond. So it's too bad it's so close, because I'm probably not going back very often. This is at Donjas Bay Gorge on Lake Michigan. The day I was there, it was very sunny, and so I didn't really get any decent gorge pictures, but it's a very nice spot. I hope to be able to go back someday. I did like the vines that covered these trees. This is Phelps Woods, and it is off of Decorah, a little bit east of County M, towards West Bend, Fredonia area. And I was so disappointed when I got here. We went, and there was so much color on the way up there. And we get there, and this area had no color. We walked forever and never got to those trees at the back. It's very open. There is kind of a little barny type thing on the property, so that might make some interesting photos in the future. This is Highland Woods, which is on Highland and Green Bay, Highland and Green Bay in Mequon. Again, it's a hardwood forested area with like 3 loop trails, and it's quite nice. No real open spots, but some pretty good sized trees. This is an example of when you walk in of some of the very large trees that line the path. This is Hirst Lake, which is a ways up, past Fredonia, past Wabaka. It's a nice you have to park on the side of the road here. Although I'll show a picture that has a little bit of a car trail going through it. I did not see how you would get a car in there. They say that you can boat on this lake, and there was a little color coming. We were there quite early. So you can see that little path going up, but I don't know how, you know, the little part where you'd park on the side of the road was gated. So I don't know if it's only open on occasion. But there was some nice meadows. It was an interesting little place. This is Sauk Creek over in Port Washington with the sun coming through. And this is Sauk Creek. It was very pretty. It was the first time I'd been there. I know Roger talks about it all the time, and it's really quite nice. And the salmon were running, and there were fishermen. There's a little bridge where I'm standing, and you can look down. And that's not more than 50 feet off of the roadway. So that's an easy place to get to. This is Spirit Lake, which is also in Mequon on Bonnewell Road, just east of Green Bay. It's another place where you park on the side of the road and you walk between two cornfields and you come upon this. It's not a very big lake, but it's a nice little lake. There is a home on it, but I think the home has been abandoned. It's all the land is, owned by the trust. It looks like if the gate was open, like you could drive down and park, but so far I've not been there when you've been able to drive in. There's this little raft there. On all of these places, I saw absolutely no wildlife. There wasn't a duck. There wasn't a goose. I didn't see a frog. I don't even know that I saw a squirrel. So that was a little disappointing. Another view, you're looking northwest here. But it's you can easily get a photo without any hand of man in it if you're looking for that. Now, this is actually not part of the Ozaukee Washington Land Trust. This is over at Trinity Creek Waterfowl Habitat, which is on County Line Road, just west of Green Bay Road. And it's a nice little, probably about a mile pebble trail that goes around that's quite flat with a good sized pond in it. It's actually a water retention that was built by the Sewerage Commission. I didn't see any ducks. There were quite a few geese there. There are power lines in the back here, high transmission lines. So you kind of have to plan your shot. But we had those beautiful blue skies. So it was a nice day. And we'll explore some new ones next time we can. So that's what I've got.
Very nice, very nice. Yeah, beautiful pictures on everyone. Nice. So I guess we have a new guest tonight, Patricia Lebinsky, is it? I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Well, welcome to our camera club. And Jeff, you mentioned you want to do some images for the PSA club showcase. Jeff, you're on mute. Jeff, you're on mute. Hey, Jeff, we can't hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
My mute button broke again. It's okay. So here's the PSA Club Showcase images that we're submitting for this year. We'll be judging this in, I think it's February. It's whenever we do the favorite slideshow, and I think that's in February. We'll be judging, there's 90 some images, but these are the images that we submitted. This one's by Ken Warning. I love it when the names, I think this is Jeff Ewigs. I remember, right? Yep, Jeff Ewigs. This one is my image. We have this by Ian Dickman. This one by Roger Krill. This one by Jesse Buchholz. And this one by Jane Hertz.
Nice.
So thanks everybody for those images. They've been submitted, so we'll be, like I said, judging that early next year. So I just thought I'd show everybody what we entered. And hopefully we'll do better this year than we did last year.
Okay, well, one last thing is I'm going to do our showcase or our presentation on fall time colors. So let me share my screen real quick. Share the screen and then share sound. I think this. Share. Let's see here. I might have to flip the screen real quick. Let's do this.
Oh, you had it right the first time, Clint.
I had it right the first time. Okay, let's flip it real quick. Right there.
Now we're seeing your display screen. Yeah, there you go.
All right. Well, I want to say thank you everyone for participating. There were some really beautiful, gorgeous pictures in there. So I guess tonight now is going to be Jim talking about flash photography, fill in flash. I'm not sure if Jim's gonna start or if Jeff's gonna help start.
Jim's
I think
gonna
I'd
start.
start first. Yeah.
Let me just do this.
All right.
Yeah.
This
Should
is
be
one
the
of
full
those
screen.
things where, we had talked many times in the group here about having people understand their flash a little better. And I know there's a lot of people who are very nervous about using their flashes. And I thought maybe it would be kind of an interesting thing to show some simple ways to set up your flashes. Now, I'm not an expert on flash, but I've been using it for a while, and I've been in many classes, and I've listened to many people who do this professionally. And you try to pick the stuff that would work for us. I mean, the reason we're going to talk about this TTL through the lens kind of stuff is because you don't need any light meters. You don't need any fancy equipment to make this work. It's really going to work pretty easily by just setting it up. So tonight, I've got a couple of different ways to show how this works. So the first thing I thought I would do is at least show you where TTL can be of help. And so let's start with just doing that first. And then I've got a couple of videos that I went out and shot, and we'll tell you more about those when we get into the videos of how this was done. And hopefully, after you've seen this, you'll be able to sort of set up for yourself your own TTL system and see if it works the way it's been working for most people's cameras. Now, again, cameras vary a little, so I can't tell you every camera is going to work exactly the same. But if it's a relatively newer camera in the last 6, 7, probably even 8 years, the TTL is really kind of worked the same way in all of them. So let me get started here. I'm going to share the screen. We're just going to go through just a little sort of an introduction of what's going on here. And so let me put this into play. All right. I'm sure you've heard that there's always a bar of stuff in your way, and it's in my way, but let's see if we can get through this. So what I've got here is we're going to talk about using TTL or through the lens flash. It's not that complicated, and I'm going to show you tonight some easy ways to set it up. Once it's set, literally you're going to be using only one thing to vary how the photo looks, and I'll explain more of that along the way. So let's kind of get started. So the first question, is, again, I've got something in my way here and it's not letting me move it. So
Jim, there is a way to hide that. I forget, it's up in the view options. You can make it go away.
Okay, I wish I could because it's stuck right in a.
Yeah, can you see where it says view options? If you drop that drop down, you can.
Well, actually, I'm not able. For some reason, it's even gotten rid of my cursor for me, and I don't know why that's the case. But okay, well, anyway, I can do it. Right. This we'll just go with it, and I'll deal with it. It'll be fine. The first reason for TTL is it's fast. You don't need any kind of light meters with you. You don't need anything that's going to be complicated. It's going to be very straightforward. Your camera makes the decision how much power the flash needs to put out. And there's really very little that you need to do from yourself. Your camera will do all of those adjustments for you. And I think you'll find this whole system of TTL is actually very sophisticated now and works very, very well. And when it's set correctly, your photos will look very professional. Maybe sort of like this. Okay, maybe not quite like this. This is the old-fashioned flash that we're used to. This is when I was even in film days. Your flash would just light up something. The backgrounds were dark. Everything did not look very professional. This was not the way you really wanted to show anything here at all. This is not good flash photography. But let me show you why you might want to consider having a flash. I do work with the Ware Nature Center, and whenever they have different activities, they usually call me in to take pictures of the volunteers and what's going on at these different outings with kids they bring in and whatever. And you'll see some of these pictures in a minute. But here was a lady sitting outside with her umbrella. She was a volunteer that was sort of saying hello to everybody as they walked into the center. And the picture on the left, of course, is without a flash. And you might think, well, maybe I just didn't take that one bright enough or something was wrong. But if you look at the umbrella, it's plenty white. So there was plenty of light there, but she sheltered from the light because of her umbrella. The one on the right, of course, I have a flash. And it didn't mess with the umbrella, but it did give me some light on her face, which was very helpful. That's a good example of when TTL is very, very nice and adds something to your photo. I guess I could have corrected the one on the left if I went in the Lightroom and do some of these other things, but I'll have a lot more noise in that photo because, again, I'm bringing up a darker part of the photo and trying to make it work. And literally, this was just turn on the flash and take the picture, and it did exactly what I needed it to do. These are some of the pictures that I get when I'm at the events, and this was Reptile Day. Some of the kids I have with masks on, I don't have releases for all of the kids, and sometimes I don't like to put kids in here if I don't have a release. The volunteers that you see there, I'm not as worried about them because they know their pictures are going to be taken, and we're not as worried about releases. But if you look at all of the different pictures, you'll see that, for instance, on the bottom left, the kids are very well set up for light, but if you look behind them, the room is probably about one stop darker than they are. That's fine. There's no problem with that because it looks logical and there's no problem with it. The snake in the middle obviously is much brighter than the person behind. Again, TTL knew that I was working with the thing closer to me, sort of set up the amount of flash brightness on that, worked out great. So this would be another example of where maybe you might want to use this. Now, I did just some quick things here with some animals that were in the aquariums. Now, I did take the flash off of my camera and I held it off to the side. And I did that with a transmitter in order to tell the flash to go off. But I just wanted to show you that even it works with this kind of thing. And now you don't see the reason I should tell you I took it off the camera was I didn't want to get the glare coming off of the glass, hitting the glass straight on and then bouncing back to me. So by moving it off to the left, I'm able to get this to work where you don't see the reflections in the glass. Now, again, I'm showing you with these animals, but this works with your dog. This works with your cat. This works with anything you have at home. So it's not that you're limited to, having to go out and see something like this. You can use the same techniques at home. Here's a couple of examples. You might think, well, the one on the left doesn't even really look like a flash, but if you look carefully at it, the sun is coming from his left shoulder, the right side of him, and it's sort of behind him. And it's a fairly sunny day, and you can see that excuse me again, by his coat, because his coat is pretty bright. I'm using a flash to shoot in straight at him so that I can get his face correctly light balanced with the rest of the picture. But again, behind him, you'll see there are people in shadows further back, whatever. Did not affect this photo at all. On the right, you see these people are standing in the shade of some trees, and you can see that because on the right-hand side, you'll see that the sun is behind these trees coming towards us. I don't know if I can zoom in, but if you were able to look at the singer's face, you would see the guy on the far left. There's one little dot where you can see the flash actually did go off. I don't know how I got so lucky that all of those glasses that the guys are wearing over there didn't show a big flash, but they didn't. It just happened to work out perfectly. But again, I'm just trying to fill in the faces to get a nice, even look across those photos. Same thing here. The one on the left bottom, I wanted to just mention that one because it's hard to imagine how bright the flash was. But if you look just behind the people standing, you'll see a line. That's actually a row of glass. We're in a room, and behind these people is a wall of glass. Then there's a hallway, and then there's some exhibits behind them. But the room that I'm in is actually pretty dark. And one of the ways you can tell it's pretty dark is if you look at the girl with the snake and you look at her arm, you'll see that the flash went off, and you'll see the reflection, the blocking of the light on her arm from the snake. That's probably almost a stop of light that I'm putting out with my flash so that they will be bright enough for this photo. And again, you may not notice that at first. And if you do it right, you shouldn't even see that technically these are all flash photos. Same thing on the right. People were in some shadows. Just wanted to make sure their faces were okay for me. So now I can just use a flash to fill. Where Nature Center had some people come in at one point, and we just did some portraits. And in this case, once again, I took the flash off the camera, and you can tell that it's off the camera. You do see the light in their eyes, of course, but you'll see their shadows on the edges of their nose and the left sides of their faces. So I actually have the flash off about a foot and a half or so off to my right. And I put them on a stand. Now, I normally don't do that. Normally, I just hold my flash. But in this case, because we were outside, I could move the flash off. And I thought, well, let's give that a try. And now I have the background darker so that they really stand out, that these now look like some pretty nice portraits. It's nothing but a speed flash, and a single flash at that. So again, sometimes this TTL can be really helpful. And again, here's some more that I had that were of some, I thought they were kind of neat. We had a model come to it's an art gallery. I think it's with MSOE. And I used a flash on her, and then again had the background darker. And the kid on the right, same thing. You can see the flash went off because you can see the dot in the bubbles. And I did that again just to bring something out on him to make sure he was very evenly lit. So that's just an introduction of why you might consider this. It's not that you always have to have a flash. You could take these without. You could come home. You could go to Lightroom or On One or Neo or any of the other programs we all use, and you could try to, fix them up. You can, but sometimes this just looks better. All right. So what are we going to do next? Well, I have a couple of videos that I wanted to show, and I got to thank Jeff Klug because he was very helpful. I wanted to show you how I set up my TTL, and I wanted you to see all of the settings on my camera at the time I'm doing it. Because so many times people tell you to set things up and you can't remember what they're doing or why they're doing it, and it's just a mess. So I thought, well, I'm going to record the data coming off of my camera, and you'll see what I'm doing, and I'll even show you it in aperture priority and in shutter priority, and then why you would probably want to go into manual rather than trying to use these automatic modes. I'll show you all of that. You'll see it in real time, and you'll see the pictures as I take them. So it won't be any mystery as to what's happening. Then the second thing we're going to do is we went to a volunteer's house. This is totally unscripted. We literally walked into their house. And by the way, I have to thank Kathy. She was just a great volunteer. We didn't have any makeup people. We didn't do anything. We just said, can we come over and take pictures? And they said, sure. We walked in. This is all live. Again, you're going to see it run live, and you'll see the pictures I get as I'm doing it. I wanted you again to see it that way because I don't want you to think there's some magic that goes on in the background to make all of this work. I also, Jim Hayes also helped out with this one because as I'm using my camera to take the pictures, I needed someone to do a wide angle so you could see what it was we were actually doing while we were there. So those are the two videos we're going to see. Jeff is going to show the first one. And then if we have any questions, we can stop there first and then try and answer any questions about how to set your camera up. And then the second one will be, again, this totally unscripted. And again, I say that because, again, I didn't bring in blotting paper to get rid of any highlights on somebody's face. I didn't do any of that. This is just like what would happen to anybody who walked into a birthday party, a holiday party, whatever. You're just taking pictures, and you want to see what it's going to look like when you actually come home with real photos from a real live event where nobody had makeup. Nothing was specially done for them. It was just done live. Okay, does that make sense for everybody? So let's just see if I can get that to stop sharing. And then what I'm going to do is let's have Jeff run the first video, and then we'll come back and we can talk after that if anybody has any questions. Hello, everybody. I wanted to show you a little bit about using TTL or through the lens flash. Through the lens flash means you don't have to do a lot of the work. The camera will do a lot of it. There's times when it's better to be in manual, but to be honest with you, most of the time you can use. Jeff, did we lose audio there?
Yeah.
Did we lose it?
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, just a minute. That's interesting that. Oh, I bet it was picking it up through my speakers. Should have been playing through. Let's see.
By the way, I gave it to Jeff because I know he's much better at making these things work than it would have been a disaster if I tried to do this. So I'm glad that he's got to try to make this work.
Well, I'm not sure why it's not working. Interesting. Let me just, I know I share something.
By the way, while we're sitting here, you will see that all of the readings of my camera on the bottom row, and you will see the histogram working over on the right-hand side as well. So you'll see basically everything as we're going along. And I'll explain the head and all that in just a minute.
So you're not hearing this audio?
No, we are not.
Okay, that's interesting because I'm getting it through my audio. Okay, well, let's go back to the way it was going where everybody could hear it. Just back up. And you'll hear it through my microphone, which is not ideal, but it will work.
Dyes or whatever, and that's how they practice their techniques. Well, over time, those hairs get you might want to run that back. They keep getting shorter and shorter and shorter. Okay. At some point, she looks shorter. At some point, well, hello, everybody. I wanted to show you a little bit about using TTL or through the lens flash. Through the lens flash means you don't have to do a lot of the work. The camera will do a lot of it. There's times when it's better to be in manual, but to be honest with you, most of the time you can use TTL and quickly fix it so that it works well even when you're in the field. And we're going to only deal with that now. And also, after we're done here, I'm just going to show you a few things using this model or this model head that I have ahead of me. That's Deborah up there. Deborah was actually a student in the beautician school where she was the guinea pig for hairstyles. And she had long hair at one time, but every time they would practice, the beauticians would practice, they would use, different colors and dyes and whatever. And that's how they practice their techniques. Well, over time, those hairs get more and more brittle and they keep getting shorter and shorter and shorter. And at some point she looks something like this. And now they're no longer useful to the beauticians, but they're really useful.
Sorry
to
about that,
photographers.
just lost it.
So anyway, that's where Deborah came from. And I want to just show you a few things that we're going to go through and see if we can get everything to kind of work here in TTL. And I'll show you some of the things that many people try and sometimes why they don't quite work the way you would expect. So first thing I have is you can see all my settings. I even have a little histogram off to the side there so you get an idea of what sort of looks where and whether, you know, I'm sort of in the right ballpark. And if you see currently, it says I'm at 1/50th of a second, f4.5. That plus or minus 0, of course, means that I'm not making any changes to what the camera thinks in brightness. It thinks it's perfect. And then I have it on auto ISO. So you get your flash for the first time, you don't really know what to do. So you figure, well, boy, I probably should just, you know, put it on aperture because I need to make sure that I get enough of the face in focus. So let me do that. I'm going to put it on aperture. And it's now in aperture. And you'll notice that it automatically switched my shutter speed. Now the camera makes that decision. I have no choice in that. So even if I go to move anything, you'll notice the only thing I can move, no matter what I do, is just the f-stop because that's what I've told it I want. And it's going to use auto ISO. Now, what I'd like to do is I'll turn on the flash in a second and we'll take that picture because I want you to see what happens. And the first thing I want to do though is just take a picture without anything just to show you that this really is a picture that is correct for these settings as it is right now. So if I show you the photo, and I'm going to switch it out of this one so you can see it, you can see that it looks just like it did just before. And in fact, if I go back to where it was just a second ago, it's basically the same picture. It's just a little smaller because you're seeing some data around the outside of the screen. So I'm going to put the flash on and let's see what the camera does if it's on its own. So right now the flash has just come on. I'm going to take this picture. Let's see what we get. And it's not bad. Deborah might be a little warmer than I would like. She looks a little brighter than normal. We can zoom in, but the camera did perform what it was told to do. I think that was it 4 or 5 we had it on? Yeah, 4 or 5. And it wasn't bad. It took an ISO of whatever it wanted to make that work. So let's just see what happens if I go into shutter. Well, now the camera said, okay, look, I'm going to 1/50th because I get to control what I want for the shutter. But the problem is that it went to f2.8. Now you say, well, why did it go to 2.8? Well, it thinks it needs the extra light. And in some cases, that would be fine. If you have enough depth of field, the whole head would be in focus. But what if I'm a little bit too close and maybe I'll only get the front part of the head and the ears could be out or whatever? I may have to change that f-stop, but again, I can't because the camera makes that decision. I only get the decision of what shutter speed. Now, there's an advantage to this in that if I have a bunch of jumping around kids at a party, 1/50th of a second may not be okay. Maybe I'll have to be a 1/25th or even a little higher, 1/60th, something like that. You know, tell them just to slow down a little bit while we take the picture. But again, the problem is I can't deal with that f-stop. And in the last example, we were able to adjust the f-stop. So if there were 2 rows of kids, I could have made it f6.3, you know, 8 if I needed or whatever. But each of these different ways of adjusting for the flash means you lose control. But let's just try this just to see if it works. So if you're in a rush and you don't know what you're going to do, you can pick one of these modes and let's just see what would happen. So let's take a look. This is the one we just took the picture of. This is the one before it, and you can see they're almost identical. They're just slightly different. Again, the camera makes these decisions quickly, and they can be off a little bit, and it's picking the ISO. That's the other problem. if you stay in, you pick you let the camera pick the ISO for you. Many times it can make mistakes based on what the lighting is out in front of you, either very dark or very bright. It'll screw things up, and you're going to be very angry because sometimes your pictures will be totally blown out, or other times they're going to be totally dark, and you're going to wonder why didn't it work and whatever. And it's usually because of a floating ISO. So the first thing I would tell you to do is get out of that. The only problem is, again, it's hard to tell exactly what happens. If you can see, I was at 20,000 ISO here for that picture. And it just means it's really hard to figure out what the camera is going to do. So I'm just going to say to you, get out of all of these together and go into manual. So let me go into manual. I'm just going to turn my flash off for a minute, and I'm going to go into manual. And now when I'm in manual, I have control of all three of these things. Now, I know some people get nervous when they go into manual, but once you set the first couple of things, you probably won't move them very much. So for instance, I'm at a party. 1/25th isn't bad. That's what our old cameras, if you remember your old film cameras, a lot of them shot around 125th of a second. That was pretty standard. So you could leave it about there to start. And if you know people are going to be really still and you're going to be really calm, and you could hold the camera, at a lower shutter speed, you could do that. But let's say we start here. And I know I only have one head ahead of me here. So I can go with 4.5. That should probably work fine. And now I'm going to go into my ISOs, and I'm going to figure out what brightness I want. And if you see here, I'm able to adjust this to a full brightness. I guess it's somewhere here. Let's just see where we're at. Yeah, that's telling me that's about right. But because I'm using flash, this would work fine without a flash. So why would I keep it that high? Why would I be at 10,000? This doesn't make sense. And not only that, now the sensor is extremely sensitive to light. 10,000 is, as you know, on most cameras means it doesn't take much light to really show up on your picture. So let me show you what a lot of photographers do when they use TTL. And if you have a camera like this, being a mirrorless camera, I see exactly what I'm going to get. But you get sort of the same kind of thing when you're working with the old DSLRs. The third number over says plus or minus 0. And that just means that currently this exposure is about right. It's what you would kind of expect. But I'm going to go much darker than this. And let's just see what happens if I get down here. Here's 8. And it's saying, well, it's about 2 stops lower. I think my camera likes to stay around. And I think I can go down to 3 stops. So you could see if it were a little bit lower. But it is dark now, and you can see on the histogram, sure enough, it shows it's dark. But watch what happens when I turn my flash on. Now, again, this usually only happens on mirrorless cameras. DSLRs can't do this because obviously you're not seeing exactly what you're going to get. Right now, this is what I would get if I took the picture. And in fact, if I take this picture and I show it to you, sure enough, that's exactly what we get. So I'm going to leave it here, and I'm going to turn the flash on. And now the flash tells the camera, I'm ready to work with you. But this is really odd if you have a mirrorless camera. Your picture might brighten up. And you go, well, what's that all about? Well, remember, the camera now thinks it has a flash, and it can put out a ton of power, and it can make the whole room really bright. Now, it doesn't know what it's exactly going to look like. It doesn't understand the room, that this head, Deborah's head, is closer to me, therefore it would be overexposed. The back of the room wouldn't be exposed the right way either. It doesn't understand all of that, but it's thinking it can make these adjustments. So right now I can see everything. I know that it's 2 stops darker than it should be for this room. And now I'm going to take the picture like this. Oh, by the way, if you do have a DSLR, you could just set it up to -2 for your background settings. And then when your TTL goes off, the same thing should happen as what I'll see here in just a second. So let's take this picture and see what we get. Now, TTL's job is to sort of get the subject that you're working with sort of correct. Even though the rest of the room is darker, the subject is right. So if I even zoom in, you'll see she's actually in pretty good shape. I mean, her amount of exposure here is about right. I can make the room brighter if I wish. I'll just turn the flash off again, just so you'll see that, again, my camera now knows whatever I see is what I would get. Let's just make the room a little bit brighter. Let's go up here to, let's just try this one. And now I'm gonna say that's fine. Let's do that 1250. And I'm just gonna turn this flash back on. And now I'm gonna go ahead and take this picture. Let's see what we get. The background should be a little brighter. Let's go back one stop. There's the, sorry, one picture. That's the picture we just had. Here's the picture we just got. It's still exposing pretty well for her, because remember, the flash is doing the work on her. The room came because of the ISO. The ISO did the work for the room. So what a lot of professionals do when they go out and take pictures, and they're using something like this, even in TTL, and a lot of them do use TTL now. It's pretty good stuff. They make the background somewhere around one stop to maybe two stops darker. Now, you don't have to go that dark. If you want it to be a sunny background and you just want to add some flash to the face, you can bring the f-stops. Sorry, the ISO is higher, and you can get that to work too. But usually we're not shooting like that very often. Those outside scenes they're a little trickier, and if we're ever interested, we can work on some of those and show you some of that. But this gives you a really nice way to start taking pictures. So I don't want to get real complicated. So here's all I'm going to say you would do. If you have a mirrorless camera, you turn your flash off. You then decide how bright you want your background. It should be about a stop or two stops darker. Again, some light is going to pass through and get to the background. If the background is really far away, it won't, and it would stay that dark. But Deborah's probably maybe 6 feet from me, and the doors are maybe 12 feet from me. So there's a certain amount of light that falls away as it moves from the head back to the doorways. So I can make that change. I can, again, change this if I want it to be brighter. I can even go a little bit brighter. It's really up to you. Then you turn your flash on. And again, for people with mirrorless cameras, you will probably see a change. There may be a setting in your camera you'll have to turn on so that this happens. Most of the other ones will work automatically if this is just on the top of your camera, like I'm doing now. There it is. Let's just see what happens with this one. By the way, that little flash is just the TV and everything here working together, going through a switcher. All right, let's see what we get on this one. Okay, so this is the last one, the one before, and the one before that. I'm controlling my background. This is pretty spectacular stuff. And you can do this really easily. So we're going to try to make our photos a little more professional and not blow out the backgrounds and not blow out our subjects. And when we're live with some people that will come up in the next segment, we're actually going to go to somebody's house, do this for real. I'll show you that it's not as intimidating as you think, because instead of thinking about being in shutter or aperture, and then all these weird things can happen to you because stuff gets moved automatically, go to manual. Make your choices with your flash off if you have a mirrorless camera. If you don't, of course, you have to use your minus symbols there telling you that it's underexposed. That's okay. And then when we turn everything on, it should work perfectly. So we're going to try that. I don't want to make it any more complicated than that. Don't make this hard. Take a shutter speed you think that's appropriate for people. Probably 1/25 should be okay. What would you need for f-stop? Well, again, you have one row of people, depending on your lens, maybe 4.5, maybe 6.3. maybe even 2.8 if it's a more wide angle lens. You might be able to get away with some of that. And then what do you do for ISO? Well, it depends. Look at your background. So once we're here, we just set our background up to whatever we want. I'll make a real dark background once. This one's really dark now. And I'm going to turn my flash on. So let's just see what we get there. That's a pretty dark background. So we were able to do all of that with just a few simple settings. And if something is too dark, leave the first two settings alone, play with your ISO. One last tip before we go away. I will tell you, I'll just show this to you here because I don't know if we'll get into everything when we're out live. Many cameras also have a way of you sort of telling the camera to either increase the amount of flash or decrease the amount of flash, even though it's in TTL. There's usually two ways you can do it. One is through the camera. And if I push a button here, I'm going to show you where mine is. There's a little sort of a reddish orangish box down at the bottom left, and it says lightning bolt plus or minus 0 right now, meaning it will take whatever TTL says and work with that. But I can change that. So let me just, for fun here, let's put this up. Let's just put it up 1.3. That's probably enough. So let's take this picture and see what we get. Okay, that's brighter. Now let's see what happened when we do this and we go in here and we turn this to minus or 1.3, let's just say. Darker. So you do have some ability of switching, how much brighter or darker that is based on just telling your camera that you would like it to work that way. Many flashes allow you to do the same thing. And the reason many flashes allow you to do that is if they're off your camera, you can adjust them on or off your camera. And that's one way to do it. I find it easier many times to do it on the flash because then I don't have to go through the menus like I'm doing here. What happens if you use the flash and the camera? On most camera systems, I can't tell you all, just many of them, they work together. So if you by accident put your camera to -1 and you put your flash to -1, you're now at -2. Okay, they added together. Let's see what happens when we go on and do some live stuff tomorrow. All right, I wanted you to see that, and the only part you really need to remember is go to manual, then decide what you want the shutter speed to be. The shutter speed is not that important to us, to be honest with you, because the flash itself is so fast that it will actually be quicker than the shutter speed. So a flash actually sends out its pulse somewhere around 1/2000th to 1/4000th of a second. It's very quick, and it takes place within that 1/25th of a second or 1/200th of a second, whatever you set it to. The only reason you're picking some kind of a shutter speed is you would like to have that just so that everything works out well. And that the people, if they're moving, they're not blurry. So that was the first part. Then you just set an f-stop that you think will get you what you need. The only thing I'll just mention is that if you go above f9, for many flashes, they have trouble getting through something greater than f9. And some cameras don't even like to focus on things once you get past f9. That was certainly true of a lot of the DSLRs in the older days. They didn't like a flash that was much higher than f9. They wouldn't always focus right. So try to keep it under f9 if you can. And then it's up to you. The only thing you're going to be adjusting is the actual ISOs or the ISOs. The second video you're going to see now, you're going to see us literally do this live. And you're going to see exactly what I do, but it's important for me to tell you one bad thing that happened to us. Off on the left-hand corner of the picture you're now seeing, you'll see a little TV screen. And on the very top right of that, you'll see sort of like a little dark brownish box. That is my camera. And when I tell the switcher to take that data off of my camera, it turns off my viewfinder and my LCD screen. I can't see through my camera at all. So in order for me to see what my camera sees, I have to turn around and look at that TV screen. So when you're watching this, keep in mind when I first start, I'm not as steady as I get better. I get better at this as I work with this more and more. But in order to take the picture, I point the camera at Kathy, and then I have to look at that tiny little screen to figure out whether I've got it set up right. Okay, so that's why you'll see the camera sometimes looks a little shakier. It's not bad, but it's not what, I mean, I felt a little embarrassed. I wasn't looking, and again, I'm holding it out in front of me because I can't see through the camera anyway. So anyway, you're going to see the second video now. And this again was done live. We walked into the house. We said, this looks like a good location because we have a bookcase, we have a fireplace, and we have bright windows to stand in front of. And let's just see, using this same simple method, where I don't even think I changed the shutter speed or the f-stops at all throughout this whole thing. I just changed ISOs. So let's see how this looks.
Hey, right before we start,
Oh,
it looks like it's an hour. I was going to say, it looks like right before we start, it looks like it's an hour show. Is that correct?
No, I don't think it's a full hour, is it, Jim? You don't have, this second video isn't an hour, is it?
Jim, you're on mute.
I believe it's 10 minutes because it's starting at 1 hour and it's going to 1 hour and 10 minutes.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
That was just because when I edited this in a video program, I probably didn't reset it to 0 starting point. So that's just me. It's only 10 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah. Let me know if you get audio. I think I fixed my audio problem, so we'll see.
Actually gone to a person's house now. We're with Kathy. Kathy's going to do a little modeling for us and let us take some pictures of her. We're going to see how this works with TTL. You can actually see the camera now. It's actually the lens itself is pointed straight out. We just lost audio again.
You did lose
Set
it,
to go,
okay.
and I have to just tell you, I'm
Oh.
sure you can see my TV
How's
monitor
that?
here. I can't We're see good now. through the camera. The only place I can see what I'm doing is through that monitor, so the pictures might be a little crooked. That's just because I have to use that to see it at the same time. But we're going to give this a try. And if you look at the data points that are on here for the camera that I'm using, sure enough, it's about it's 1/100th of a second, f5. It's actually a little bit of a dark picture. That's okay. You can see even on the histogram, it's dark. But that's all right, because what I'm going to do is I want it a little darker. I want my flash to fill in, which again, I turned on the flash. You notice it got brighter. That happens on most mirrorless cameras. And now we're going to try this again, and I'll have you look at me. And I'm going to set this up, and let's give it a try. See if I can make this straighter. Let's try it. That's the photo we just got. And again, she stands out nicely from the background. And again, I can make that darker if I wish. And again, the way I would do that is I would turn off my flash. I could see what's going to happen by making it a little darker. Remember, the only thing I'm probably going to move is my ISO. So let's make that a little darker. Now, sorry, let's try it again. Flash is now on. Ready? And it's got you now. And let's see what we got. So the background should be a little darker. Remember, she's sort of close to the background, and the light does pass her, so there isn't any way I can stop it completely unless I move her further away from the background, and then the light will have a harder time getting farther back, and you'll see it would get a little darker. So we'll just try another one, same kind of way. We're going to have you stand in front of the fireplace. And once again, I'm going to turn off my flash. I'm just going to set up my ISO. Now again, if I were doing this in the same house over and over and over, I don't think I would move this ISO up and down. She's standing in front of the fireplace. Let's give it a try. And let's see what we got. That's actually a really nice picture, even though, you know, she was dark to start out with, but the flash filled in her face and it worked perfectly all on TTL. I didn't have to do any hard work. So the last one we're going to do is the trickiest of all. I'm going to have you stand in front of some windows. And here's where it's kind of interesting. When we're working in front of windows, we get to decide what we want to do for how much we see in the background. Remember, this ISO is giving me an ability to see something behind her. Like right now I can see very clearly what's behind her. So now I'm off a little bit here and we're going to try this again. This is really always the hardest way for me to shoot. No, that's okay. I just have to be able to see that screen. Okay, let's give this a try and let's see what happens. All right. Now that's the picture with the background pretty much able to be seen. I could get it even better if I wish. And I would do that, of course, by taking my ISO and turning it down a little. So right now my ISO is at 160. Let's bring it down to 80, or it'll stay at 100. Let's try that again. And here we go. Let's see what we got. And so that background is just a little brighter. There was the one before. And so we got a chance to see what that looks like. If she was too bright and I wanted to change that, remember, I can always go into my menu and I change this thing that says 00 for the flash. And I'm going to turn it down to -1. This may not work so well because she's standing in front of a window. But let's see what happens. Still turned out pretty good. So it's pretty simple to make all these changes. It's not difficult at all. And you can see that this actually works the way we kind of want it to work. So we're going to try one other thing, and that is I have the flash. You can see the flash, of course, on the camera. We're going to do something different this time. We're going to point it straight up. You say, well, that doesn't do much good because we're just going to light the ceiling. Well, yeah, that's the point. The light will hit the ceiling and bounce back down. But if we did it this way, people get raccoon eyes because the light is coming down and it doesn't fill in around the eye socket, which is in a little bit. So on your flash, if you pull up this little back part, there's a little lens, flips down, it spreads the light a little more. The little white card will actually send some light forward. So Kathy, we're going to have you come back over here. And ready? Let's see what that did.
And why don't you show the camera with the diffuser up?
You can also use your flash in other ways more creative than what we're doing here. If you have white walls, you can actually bend these sideways and then you can shoot them one way or the other to a white wall and let the light bounce back. Be careful of the wall. Yeah, if it's a bright red, the color that's coming back is bright red, and that's not going to work. Same thing with a green or some other weird color. So you might want to be careful if you're doing that. You may not want that to happen. Now I'm going to push those two things back in, and I just wanted to show you another thing you can do. Many people buy these diffusers that can be put in front of your flash. And these make the light a bigger light source than they were before. That's a little less harsh when you take those pictures than it would have been before. So let's try this one more time. And we're going to do this again with using the diffuser this time. All right. Let's try this one more time with you. Let's see what we got. Now that should be a slightly more soft picture. Any shadows that are cast won't be as sharp lined as they would have been. That's one way to deal with a flash and do something a little different. Many professional photographers, like for the, that photograph the presidents and other things, they use stuff like this often nowadays. So that's one thing that's not bad. But if you want to try something even more extreme, This is a transmitter, and it can talk to this flash. So if I take the flash off the camera and then put in its place this transmitter, now you may have to set up your camera to let it know you have a transmitter on there. But if everything goes well, this transmitter should flash a signal through this flash, and it did. So now I'm going to try it again, but I'm going to move my flash off to the side. What that should do is give some nice shadows so that we can now get some depth on the face. So I can handhold this, but again, I got to kind of watch my monitor because I can't see what I'm doing. Oh, perfect. Let's try it again. Let's see what we get. And now you can see there's actually a shadow behind her because the light, of course, is blocked. But you do see some shadows on her face now. So how do I get around the shadow part? Well, if I move her forward, those shadows won't appear. So I could do it here, but my space isn't that wide where I am. So I'm going to have you stand by the bookcase, just stand up a little bit. And let's see what happens when we're over on this side. Perfect. All right. Now that one's a little high, a little more exposed, but it's not terrible. It's actually pretty good. Now you see the shadow. I'm going to have you move one step towards me, maybe even two. Perfect. Let's try it again. Now I could do another trick, and that is I'm holding it with my left hand. If I were more talented, I could put it in my right hand, and then the shadow would go the other direction. But the further away that the objects are behind her, those shadows will be harder and harder to see. So you can work your flashes with these remotes. You can use them straight on. Everything works beautifully, and it's all TTL. So if you were scared of your flash, don't be scared of it. Go ahead and try the TTL, and I think it'll work just fine. Any questions? We'll talk to you soon. All right, I tried to pack a lot in there just for you to see a lot of things, but you saw that I wasn't really doing anything very complicated at all. It's basically setting up the two initial readings. So you have the shutter speed, you have your f-stop set up, and then it's just playing around with your ISO one way or the other to get the kind of look you're looking for your background. And I think most people, if they use it that way, will find that this technique works really well, and you won't have to be afraid of your TTL settings anymore, I hope. So let me ask any questions that you saw there. Oh, by the way, I should tell you one of the things I did want to mention. It's not a bad idea to put a CTO filter or a colored filter in front of your flash. Now, I let my camera, I think it was on auto white balance. I wasn't really messing with it. I probably should have put it in flash, but that means flash is basically sunlight. It's the same color. So when you take a flash picture, it's basically looking very bluish, sunlightish. But if you put a slightly yellow filter in front of your flash, it'll give it a very beautiful look. Now, it can't be real dark yellow. I think it's, they say, a quarter stop yellow, or even maybe up to a half stop, but not a lot. And just that little bit of yellowness will make their skin look beautiful if you're using it on people. Now, maybe if you have an all-white dog, maybe you wouldn't want to do that. So, Anthony, what did you have? You are muted.
My question is, what about the built-in flash on the camera? Does that work the same, or is that a whole nother ball of worms?
You know, my guess is it works the same, because my guess is it's still working as TTL, because they really don't have manual settings on those cameras in general. So my guess is it is working as TTL. And so you could do it the same way. I would try it. And the easiest way to see if it works this way is just put something on a table like I did. I mean, I had that head, which I just wanted to use that so it looks sort of like a person standing there. I mean, I couldn't have somebody stand there for 20 minutes while I worked on that. But you could just put something on a table and then try those same things, get some settings on it, and just vary the ISO and see what happens, and see if the backgrounds are getting brighter and darker. Because really, remember, it's the ISOs that are letting more light in for the backgrounds, and that's why it works. Because the flash is basically taking care of the characters in the front, so it works really well there. So, Linnea, what'd you have?
When you walk into a shoot, say this was like a real shoot that you were going to do you prefer to do off camera lighting or on camera lighting? You know, you gave us both examples.
Anytime you can get off your camera, it's always better. But to be honest, like for instance, if you were doing bands, most bands won't let you use lighting for their stage. They won't let you do it anyway. So that's kind of out. But if you can, it's always helpful. Like in the case of what the light that I have on me is right in front of me. And because of that, there's no shadows. You don't see any shadows anywhere on me here. Now, if I move that light off to the side, you start to see shadows. And in general, that gives depth to the faces. And that's why you usually see most photographers, when they can, will move that light at 45 degrees to one side or the other. And they will move it up 45 degrees to sort of simulate that. It's usually sort of like the golden hour. That's usually where the sun is, somewhere around 45 degrees over, and it's coming down and giving those beautiful shadows that most people love. And that's why you see people tend to put those flashes there. Now, again, people do crazy stuff. Sometimes they put it just right to the side of one side of the face and light up one side, let the other side be really dark. That's really style, you know, that's up to you. But if you have the choice, it's better to put it off. Now, I'll tell you what I do when I do those kids pictures and when I'm doing the events. Obviously, when you have your camera, this is my shooting finger for the button of the camera. That means this hand has to hold the actual speed light. So I have to keep it in my left hand and I move it out, but that also means I don't have as much control over my camera. It's not as stable as it would be if I were holding it with two hands. So you say, well, why not bring a stand? Well, to be honest with you, in the real live world, when you got kids moving around, you have a party going on, whatever it is you're doing, you can't bring stands in there and put them up. You're going to have to hand hold that light. And that's kind of what I do. They do build brackets that can hold it sort of off to the left a little or off to the right. I found those really heavy and they're kind of tough to hold when you're walking around. Again, when you're in tight quarters, that's tough. So if I just hold the flash on one hand, trigger in the other hand, and it usually works pretty well. Does that answer that question for you?
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. Bernard Hall, we got you next.
Is TTL a feature of the camera? Or is it something that you can do with any camera that is of a certain age?
TTL is been really out there for, I want to say, at least about 10 years, I would think. I mean, Jeff, you might even know, when did TTL first come out?
TTL's been out for probably 15 or 20 years. Because it was actually in film cameras, because they use the back of the film itself as a grade card for adjusting. So it's been around a long time, but it's certainly been improved in the last few years.
Yeah, and it's really very sophisticated now. It actually, the cameras are like the camera I have will even say, do you really want me to center on faces for TTL? And it'll allow that. I mean, it does some really sophisticated stuff. I think I did mention this and I don't remember hearing it, but remember when TTL goes off, it's always a good idea to remind people they're going to see two flashes very close together. The first flash is not taking the picture. The camera sends out a picture, sends out a flash. The camera looks at that flash. It's a very low power flash. It's, I think it's 1/64th power, something like that. then the camera says, okay, if I use that amount of flash, is that right or wrong? And if it's wrong, how much do I have to increase it or how much do I have to decrease it? And then the camera makes that decision within seconds. It's actually probably a tenth of a second, and sends a second flash out, and that's the corrected flash. So that has the right amount of light. So it's not the first flash that's actually doing the actual picture. That's just testing for your camera.
Okay, so is that something that you have to turn on, or is it automatic, or?
Usually, yes, the camera will ask you, flash and whether you want to be in TTL. Usually it's on the flash. The flash itself will say TTL. If it doesn't have TTL, then it's going to be a manual flash in general. So usually it's on the flash. Like, I should have brought one up here. I'm sitting in a room and I didn't bring a flash up, but on the back of mine, it will say, do you want to be in manual on the flash? Do you want to be in TTL? Are you on wireless? It's asking me, how is the flash working with the camera? And all I have to do is say which one I have, and then it automatically talks to the cameras. And the cameras are really good now with communicating back and forth with these flash units. And by the way, I only showed you a single flash, and obviously this can get really complicated, and I have not spent a ton of time of using multiple ones, but you can set up 4, 6, 8, 10 of these. I mean, there are guys who actually go out and will use 40 or 50 of these flashes. Some they have in manual, some they'll have in TTL. They can be combinations. So it's actually pretty impressive now, the new flashes. So I just hope that this gets you, if you have a flash and it's been sitting in a box and you've been wondering, should I ever get it out and try it? Yeah, try it. And try this setup. And again, this actually came from some pretty smart people. I think Scott Robert Lim, I don't know if many of you know him, but he's a really well-known wedding photographer. He does a whole bunch of other things too, but he was really big at showing this at one of the conventions I was at and showing that sort of technique. And we used it a lot for going around a hotel, photographing what would have been like a bride and groom. Obviously, they weren't really a bride and groom, but we use that same technique. And the pictures turned out great with very little work on our part. So.
Well, thank you, Jim. I think you did a fantastic job in that on explaining this, because I know a lot of people are very, they're nervous on taking the flash photography. But I do like the flash photography because, you won't get, let's say, like right behind you, your screensaver, you got all the trees. Well, you get shadows. Well, what's nice is with the flash, you can fill in those shadows on the person's face.
Right.
It was very informative. I enjoyed it.
I think it's a little different way of looking at your flashes and trying stuff, because again, is it better to be in manual? Well, yeah, you have total control, but I don't own a light meter. Most people today don't own a light meter. So that means we don't have that as an option anymore. And I don't think I do enough photos that I would need that. So now I know, Clint, you do a bunch of stuff too, but are you still doing manual when you're out yet? Because wasn't your TTL?
Yes, I'm using manual. That's a whole nother, you really got to know your settings on that. I don't recommend that. That's the advanced stage in that. But TTL, when it did work, it works out fabulous. Right. You might have to compensate it. Usually when I did the TTL, once for my type of style, I always had to go minus for the compensation. I had to go minus 0.3 to minus 0.7. That seemed to be about the sweet spot.
I think that's typical. I would do that too when I would work with people. Sometimes I would put it at a -3 or minus 0.3 or 0.7, and that usually works really well. And I've done that with the kids when I'm out doing those things, like I did Bug Day and some of these others, same thing. Even when I'm outside in the bright sunlight, you would think you don't need it, but sometimes you get these weird shadows on people's faces. And when you take a look at those pictures, they just don't look right, or they don't look very good. You take a TTL, you just hold it out with one hand, take the picture and all of a sudden it's evenly lit.
Yeah, it's really
So-
nice with that fill flash. I totally agree with you.
Right. Yeah, it's just a nice, easy way, I think, to make that work. And again, I just wanted to show you when we went into the house, again, that was not scripted. That was done just live as we went in. And I wanted you to see it's not as scary as you think it is, because I was only changing one setting. You know, that's all I changed on all of those different things. Now, if I were actually looking through the camera instead of that monitor off on the table, it would have been easier for me to see if I was too bright or too dark. And I couldn't see that very well because I'm having to look off to the left and see if it looks bright enough. It's like, well, okay, I think it's okay. So I kind of just left it there. And that was actually, as you saw, that was actually a very warm day. I was really kind of sweaty. And that's why you saw some signs of some light reflections like around the eyes and stuff. That was only because of the day. I don't think you would get that under normal conditions. So any other questions? Am I missing anybody? Yes. Tony, what'd you got?
I just wanted to say that you've given me a reason to take my speed light out of its pouch where it's been for the last 10 years.
Well, and because I didn't use it for quite a while. And then when I was getting into these tricky situations of being in a darker room and I needed the pictures to look, so that they could publish them for, Where Nature Center, for Waukesha or whatever. And that's when I started doing this. And it was like, wow, this was so easy to do. Why haven't I been doing this longer? It was the same thing. So I think it's worth trying. And again, I should have said one other thing. I did mention this in the beginning, but the one thing sometimes people forget is they don't set their ISOs or their ISOs and lock them in. And if you let that float, and I know Clint and I have talked about this because we've had trouble. Sometimes you take a picture and it's totally blown out and you think, what did I do wrong? Well, your camera gets very screwed up when you give it total control on ISO. And I don't know if because it sees, let's say, a really dark background and it goes, I'll just send out a ton of light. Well, then it does that. And then like everything is screwed up. So you really need to lock your ISOs in. You can't let them float or you'll be in a world of hurt. So I think, Clint, you've had the same problem, right? Same
well,
thing.
I think on me too, and that with band lighting, the lighting is always moving back and forth. If you're outside, the light isn't moving and that, but when you get like flashlights flashing at you, that's being thrown into the fire.
Yeah. So anyway, just lock your ISOs in, or I should say it's always tricky. I know it's supposed to be ISOs, and I always say ISO because that's the way I remember saying it forever. So I try to say it both ways. I think technically it's ISOs. So
ISO.
Yeah. All right. Any other questions? Or are we okay? Or if anybody has questions, you can call me. You can send me stuff. We'll try and make it work for you and see if it works better. So. But
I like the way you presented it.
Yeah, it was a really nice presentation, Jim. You did a very unique job. And I like that hands-on. I like that.
Well, you see, that was one of the reasons why I really wanted you to see the settings on my camera so that you understood I wasn't changing stuff. When I said I'm just changing ISOs, honestly, I was just changing ISOs.
Yeah.
Even stuff that's tricky, like someone standing in front of a window, that's a tricky shot. And I didn't do anything. I didn't change any shutter speeds, anything for the f-stops. All I changed was the ISO because I wanted to be able to see the stuff in the background of that window because I wanted some of the greenery. I didn't want just a bright picture. Now, again, I could have gone for that, but I didn't. And it was simple. It really wasn't all that complicated.
Yeah, it's a very, this, and see what you get. Probably going to be okay.
Yeah,
I'm
saying try it because at least then you won't be nervous about it in the beginning and just see how it goes. Again, you can always darken it down by, again, changing like Clint and I, the amount of light coming out of the flash if it's too much. You can change that ISO setting. And really, those are I think the only two things you're going to mess with. Again, I also would say if you think of it, it would be smart to probably put the camera in flash, because again, then it's actually working with that light for the flash, because it understands a flash system is putting out basically daylight. So if you did put it in daylight, that would still work pretty good too. So that isn't going to be a problem.
And that's what I usually shoot 99.9% of the time. I set, I don't like it. I do not like it set to auto white balance, because I've noticed a few times that whacked my settings all out of whack. So I like, the settings, with the flash. You set it as a flash, or like what you said, daytime, because that's what it is set as.
Right. It won't make much difference, either way would probably work just fine.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
One thing is kind of nice in that our group photo shoot next month for the Holy Cross Lutheran Church at the pizza party. There's an example. We'll be kind of hands-on with the group photo shot. So you can kind of see the type of settings that we can do. So you'll see that hands-on if you come to the Menomonee Falls Camera Club.
Now, I don't know if Jeff, are you doing that photo again this time?
No, I can't make that meeting, so I think.
Yeah, I'm taking a photo myself and that.
Yeah.
But anyone else is welcome to do it too. But I plan on bringing my camera, my flash, my tripod in that.
Okay. Well, we'll see it hands on, and we'll see what you set up. So it'll be a lot of fun.
Yep.
And hopefully it works. So we'll keep our fingers crossed that it works. So
well, I'll be shooting.
I want a good exposed picture to work on.
Yeah.
I'm hoping to go to the West Bend parade, and I figure that would be a good time to use that because it's going to be after dark.
That's one of those where you probably would want to take your flash and tell it to be at least 0.7, not as bright, because then that way the Christmas lights of the things around them will stand out with them. Otherwise, the people up in front might get really bright compared to the stuff further back. And then you may not want that.
Well, I think the biggest thing, what you were describing, Jim, is go out and practice. Give it a try.
There's only a couple things to adjust. Really, you're only talking those two different settings. So play with them and see what you get.
Yep, and just watch your shutter speed, that it doesn't go over your sync speed for your flash. So
usually it won't let you. Like in my camera, if I try to exceed 1/250th of a second, it doesn't go further up. Now, again, we didn't even talk about this, and this is not a subject for tonight, but many of the flashes will allow you to go faster than your sync speed, but there's some problems with doing that. And again, I don't want to get into that, but it's a little, the flash can't put out as much power when you do that for a bunch of reasons. So, but yeah, it's pretty easy to work with, I think. Just stay under your sync speed. And again, that won't affect the flash power at all. The only thing that's going to do is, so if you're at, let's say, the parade and you're shooting at 1/250th of a second, that really means you've limited the amount of light that's going to be able to get into your camera. So I probably wouldn't stay up that high. I would probably do that 1/25th of a second, somewhere in there, to let in double as much light, let's say, as anything else. And if you get too low, let's say a 60th of a second or a 50th of a second, you're going to see the people blurring as they're walking by. So you got to hit that sweet spot between what is the right shutter speed. And again, once you find it, stay there. Then you can just do most of your pictures at that shutter speed. Unless you see somebody running faster and you go, oh boy, I want that person. Well, yeah, then you have to quickly bring that shutter speed up. So,
well, then what's nice is that TTL will compensate for that then.
Yes. All right. Thanks, everybody. I hope that if you have any questions, let me know.
Yeah, great job. And great. Thank you, both the Jims and that. And also Jeff for, helping out with the equipment and that. I thought it was really a fantastic job. I think we have a little bit better understanding, and I think you encourage a few people to go out and give it a try. So, well, I guess with that being said,
Clint, before we go, I just want to show a couple things on the website that's going to be starting up soon.
yeah, absolutely. I was going to
We've
just
got a
make
couple of
something else.
minutes, so let me just show where I'm at.
And if there's any other people that need to make any announcement, please feel free.
So this is the front page of the website. And hate that. Where'd it go? I lost everything.
Jeff, when will this new website be up and running?
Well, that's what the heck?
Still work in progress on that?
Well, no, it's about ready.
Okay.
I just can't figure out why I lost it or where it went to. That's weird. What the heck? Did the whole browser just disappeared?
Different desktop, maybe.
Okay.
Do a command tab and find it.
Yeah, it's weird.
Once in a while, I was like, "Oh man!"
Oh, I
typed
see
it
it.
out.
I see where it is. Okay, it just went slightly outside the border and was between two screens hidden. I've never seen that before. Oh, that's what happens when you got too many screens. Oh man, not my night for computers. So here's the front page. It's coming along pretty nice. If I would have had it up, it even has a scrolling part on top saying what's going to be happening this month. Little talk about our group, and then some of the pictures, and then a meeting notice. But what Linnea had mentioned in a really good email, I really wanted to say I agree with a lot of the opinions she had in this email to our board. And this is our gallery page as I'm working on it. I've gotten a few pictures from people, and this is basically where you enter the gallery part. So we've got, say, let's go into Roger's gallery, because that's the easiest one. And what I've done is I've got the name, I've got the camera brand that he's using so that people will know what kind of camera, so that if they have questions about Canon stuff, they can talk to Roger maybe, or anybody else that uses Canon. We have a scrolling gallery page, which you can advance if you want to go faster. And we can actually do videos as well as stills. So if you start to do, get into videos, we can post videos on this page as well. So we're pretty close. I've combined a bunch of the field trips, basically zoo field trips and Shady Lane. And you can see, like, here's some of the zoo stuff that I pulled, that I had some older zoo items. So that's basically what's missing on the new website, is basically our field trips, because we haven't done as many field trips and we're not getting as many people submitting stuff from the field trips. I am looking at putting the photos of the month videos. We could actually put those on the website under this photos of the month. Okay. Right now, there's nothing real. Well, I guess I got a few from like summer fun. I think they're just still shots. Yeah. And October we had transportation vehicles. So with the videos that you're creating, Clint, I can put those on the website. I've got a really nice About Us page, which has the history of the club. Talks quite a bit about how the club got started. It'll have a place to pay dues, which for some reasons got messed up a little bit. I also have all the presidents, vice presidents, secretaries, and treasurers listed from the very beginning all the way to now, in case everybody ever wants to see. Under meeting info, we have the meetings, we have membership. So to sign up, we'll have a place to pay dues, and then a membership form to fill out so that we have a basic idea of the camera brand, editing software that you use, stuff like that, speakers you'd like to have a check into, and interest in photography. So this is getting to be a pretty sophisticated site. And it's about ready. The only thing that's really missing is the gallery stuff. The old galleries would be gone, and I've only gotten a few people. I am going to add a couple others that I have some older photos for. Photo Resources has a nice page of all the different resources. All you have to do is click the logo and it will take you right to their website, and it's about basically any of the stuff that we talk about here, and I'll add more as we get more stuff. So if anybody has suggestions, please let me know what we should add. But I'm thinking that I probably will have this thing up and running and replace our old site probably by next month.
Jeff, how many photos do you want for the gallery?
About 15 to 20.
Thank you.
And Jeff, I'm one of the slackers too that needs to get you photos. But when it comes to the field trips, do you want that separately? Like, I mean, I'm sorry, do you want those separate? Yeah. Like, okay.
Yeah. Whenever you get some, if you just want to send me and tell me that they're field trip stuff, I'll take those, and then I'll create the different field trips. And
excellent.
Whenever you get the galleries, I know it's hard to get a gallery put together and hard to pick out your favorite images. I would also like a headshot along with the gallery photos. Doesn't have to be, anything special, but it's really nice. I haven't figured out how to make these smaller, but it's really nice to be able to see who the people are in our club and associate them with their galleries, and, a little blurb of talking about, their photography. We've got some going, and it makes for some interesting reading, and we'll keep adding more as people keep submitting.
This is fantastic, Jeff. Thank you.
You could see we got some, and what's really nice is this also will work really nice on a phone and iPad, which is the main reason for the switch to the new one. Yeah, Tony.
Tony, you might want to unmute yourself.
Yeah, I was looking for it. I don't have the. Would it be beneficial to have a link to the galleries on the members' photos and bios?
There is.
Okay, I didn't see it.
Yeah, there's a button here that you click to get to their gallery.
Oh,
down here.
Okay, sorry, didn't see it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So that's why it's a sort of a bigger one, since we had, before we had all what their favorite stuff was with their photos, but they have this setup that works pretty nice. And so I think it's going to work out pretty good. And it works out nice as a on the phone too, which is an important part. So
Yeah, I like the layout. Looks nice.
yeah,
Should the bios be written in first person or third?
I get a little bit, most of it's in first person. I do sort of fix it up when I get them. But yeah, most of it is, I have owned or my first memories. So it's usually, first person. Whatever you feel comfortable with.
Well, Jeff, I wouldn't worry about, waiting until the last minute. I mean, you could always publish our website now if you wanted to, because we can always add to it.
Right. It's just about set. The big thing that I have to do yet is get the payment stuff on here. But I have to start this site up, and then we would change domain names over. And there's a few things that have to get done. So it will be December, but I do want to get it switched by December because I get to start the Wacko website after that. And
Website's still going to be the same too?
Yeah, the website domain and everything will be the same. I just have to move it from the one old site to the new site. So yeah, it's Squarespace hosts our domain name, so it's a really easy switch. But there's a number of things we have to do to get it going. So
Jeff, when I send you pictures, how many pictures should I send in an email before I switch to using WeTransfer?
you can send up to 20 gigabytes or 20 megabytes worth of files at one time as an email. And if it gets over that, then you're going to want to use WeTransfer.
I think
Okay.
I believe Microsoft, for my Microsoft, I think it's only 10 meg, I believe.
Yeah, and some might be 10 megs. It's 10 or 15. A lot of the carriers are going up to 15 to 20 now. The easiest is if you can't get it sent, then go to WeTransfer. Or if you don't want to fool around with it, just do WeTransfer right off the bat.
I think,
like I said, I can do videos as well as stills. So,
I think in the past I've sent some on my OneDrive I gave over to you, I believe, but that was years and years ago.
Yeah, and I can work from that as long as I can download it, or even if you want to put it in a Dropbox link and then give me the download spot, that works. I prefer OneDrive or WeTransfer just because it's simple and I don't have to log into anything to try to get it, because I don't have a OneDrive account anymore.
Okay.
I only do Apple stuff now.
Okay.
But
these photos should be JPEGs and size 2100 at the longest.
Right. Yep. So it'd be nice to get our gallery full, but I'm going to put Bill Reitz on yet. I still have all of his photos. So I think since he's one of our oldest members, he was almost there when this group was founded. So I'm going to re-put his gallery back into place.
Great.
Because he's one of the few. I got to bug Richard Nesbeck. He's the other one that's a member, but he doesn't show up at our meetings here. He's the next longest one. And I think it's me and Roger and Ken Cena. Actually, Ken Cena's before me because he was there. Although my boss, I worked at a camera store, and my boss is the one that started the group. So long time ago.
Ken's father, Joe, was in the club a long time ago.
Yeah, he was. That's how Ken got involved with it too. It's been a very interesting club all these years.
Well, it's great because we got great variety. We have all sorts of types of talents from interest to, you name it, we basically cover it. Any type
Yep.
of photography. We
Yeah,
have
so
fantastic guest speakers, and it's usually always different too, which is awesome. And that, it's nice because sometimes we review stuff that we've, talked about, 5, 10 years ago, because sometimes like, okay, things need to be tweaked now.
yep.
So
Yep. No, it's a good club. We got some good stuff coming up next year. After the Christmas, we got Mike Mazul in January. I can't remember February. February I think is our favorite slideshow, and then Mike Motz is coming up, and a couple others. So
Jeff, you were saying that you're going to put on slideshows from the President's Challenge. I had sent you a bunch from last year. Do you still have them?
yeah, I have some of them. I've got to look to see if I still have them all, or if I have them on one of the YouTube sites that I stored them on.
I did
if I
lose
don't,
1 month was missing.
Yeah. There's yeah, I'm not sure if I have them all or not, but for some reason, I seem to have lost or misplaced a few things. I have too many hard drives going. It's getting hard to keep track of where I put stuff, and sometimes I've accidentally deleted things that I thought, oh, I had on. And now I know not to get rid of anything that I put onto the website. I'm going to keep on a hard drive, because when you go to create a new site like this, I didn't have hardly any of the old stuff to pull from. So I could download it all, but it was all download single images at a time. And that'd be hundreds and hundreds of images that I'd be here all day, all year. So that's why we're starting everything from scratch. But yeah, it'll be a good site. But I'll let you know, Roger, if I can't find them, I'll bug you for them. Hopefully you got some of them yet.
I think so.
Yeah.
well, it's hard because with our cameras eating up so much memory, and that like in the past I used to always save my pictures, and that now it's like I think I'm going to delete some of the pictures that are mediocre and just save the best pictures, because I can't save hundreds of thousands of pictures. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and you do want to call. That's probably would be a good topic sometime, is to go into culling your images, because I'm as bad as everybody else. I still have 350,000 images on my hard drive. I have two 12 terabyte hard drives, almost full. So I'm just as bad, but that's my winter project, is I start to go through and I delete more of the old stuff that I don't like. Trouble is, you come up with these new programs that can fix some of the old photos and make them actually look nice. So
yes,
it's but yeah, culling is a art, and it needs to be done. The fortunate part is hard drives are inexpensive. I mean, I'm able to pick up 12 terabyte or 18 terabyte hard drives nowadays for under $300.
Yep.
So I just saw a Seagate hard drive that's a 14 terabyte for $200 at Costco.
Wow.
And I go, that's a pretty darn good deal. 14 terabyte.
Yeah, I should be buying some, because this 60 megapixel camera is just eating
Yeah.
it up. Oh God, it's like I should buy myself a server in that, NAS or something. But gosh.
Well, that's I've got 2 boxes that hold 8 drives each, and I still have some space left for more drives, but yeah, you can take up a lot of room with hard drives.
Well, is there any
Plus,
other?
you want to back them up. You got to back them up.
That's true. Any other announcements, anyone?
I have a quick question. For those of us that participated in the Birds of Prey event, don't we normally send a few of our photos over to Schlitz Audubon to have photos for their use? And
Yeah, I was actually, I keep meaning, I've been working on too many projects with competition came up. But yeah, if you want to send me a bunch of images, I'll take whatever quantity, and then I've already gotten some from somebody else. So I'm going to send an email out to all the participants and ask for, 15 or 20 images or so. It could be even more. Since we had 15 birds, it'd be nice to give them, a shot of each bird if you have it. Otherwise,
all right.
whatever you have.
Okay, I'll get some over to you.
Yeah, that'd be great. It's on my list of things to do.
Well, I guess next month we'll see everyone, hopefully in person. Hopefully everyone will be able to make it to the Holy Cross Lutheran Church on Pilgrim Road. I'm looking forward for that. I'm like, really, that's only almost less than a month away because it's the 5th and right now it's the 7th. So
yeah, coming up
looking
fast.
forward for that. So
hope you guys have a good time.
It should be fun. It was fun last year and it was nice. We had a nice turnout of people and I think last year 32 or 33 people. So it was nice.
Yeah.
So, well, I guess if anyone doesn't need any other announcements or want make any comments, I guess that'll be it.
Okay.
So thank you everyone for coming. See you next month.
Yep. You guys have
Goodbye,
a good
everybody.
Christmas. Good Thanksgiving.